Hello, my name is Matthew Macaluso, and welcome to my talk, Pumped Up for Plants, the effects of dissolved nutrients on tender green mustard spinach, brassica rapa, and an aeroponic system. So I'd like to thank Mr. Dutton for guiding me through this senior research project, Mr. Spence and Mr. Mitchell for overseeing my project. These are two mentors to me, and my mother, because without her, none of this would be possible. So hydroponics is a form of soilless agriculture. As you can see here, there is a plant growing on top, suspended in medium within a net pot, and the roots are suspended in concentrated solution. So aeroponics is a soilless plant culture system in which fresh nutrient solution is misted onto plant roots continuously. Now this is basically hydroponics, but now the roots are in the air and the water is being pumped up. So also the nutrients and water are recycled and no soil is needed, interestingly enough. So brassicas, this is a picture of a mustard field because the genus of plants brassica is the mustard family. And examples are cruciferous vegetables, so your broccoli and your cauliflower, cabbages, and mustards. So tender green mustard spinach was the species used and tested in this project, Brassica rapa variant. So this was created for the southern United States of America. This project took place over August in the warm temperatures, so this was a good choice for me. So nutrients is a substance that provides nourishment for growth or metabolism. Mainly, plants absorb nutrients from the soil in the form of minerals and other inorganic compounds, and through photosynthesis and cellular respiration, they are transformed into organic compounds, and they can be used through the air. So some examples are your nitrates, your phosphates, your potassium. These are the big your primary macronutrients, and then you have some secondary macronutrients such as calcium, magnesium, sulfur. And you also have micronutrients, which are found in only trace amounts in the soil, such as molybdenum or argon. So the first independent variable is the concentration of nutrients. The second is the location on the bucket. And the bucket. So on the bucket, there is on the side, so you have 5 holes. On the top, there's another 5 holes, so because of this, you can get different amounts of water or sunlight, and so location became a variable through my setup. And the last one is the number of plants per net pot. While seeded, I try to seed it as realistically as possible to simulate a real life example. So as I sowed my seeds, basically, you would get a different number of plants per net pot, which creates the illusion of real-life competition within the field. So the dependent variable is dry vegetative mass measured in grams. So the mechanism for nutrients. So nutrients directly affect metabolism and growth, and the key components of nutrients is used in protein synthesis such as nitrogen, and phosphates is used in ATP production. And then the location, nutrient water coverage, as explained already, due to the side or the top, you might get different amounts of water, which will directly affect their mass at the end. And then the realism of competition. Plants will compete for sunlight, nutrients, water, and in relation to different numbers of plants being there, the more number of plants, the more likely they are to fight for more resources. So my first null hypothesis is that the dry mass at levels 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 for the concentration of nutrients will be equal, and the alternative hypothesis is that as nutrient concentration level increases, the dry mass also increases. My second set of hypotheses states that the dry mass for top and side will be the same, while compared to the alternative hypothesis, where the dry mass for the top will be higher than the dry mass for the side. And for my third set of hypotheses, the null hypothesis states that the number of plants does not affect the dry mass, but the alternative hypothesis states that as the number of plants decrease, your dry mass increases. So for methods, this is my apparatus. This basically had to be built by hand. I built 5 buckets. On top there is 5 net pots. These are in the holes. And on the side, you can also see 5 PVC elbows, glued in and then caulked to make them waterproof. and then you have a area where you can have 10 different groups of net pots. Also in the bottom sits a pump, a water pump, and there's a piece of PVC jetting from it, and on top there are small PVC emitters to create a water coverage and water cloud for the plants. So to change the concentrations, I basically took a set amount of nutrients and fertilizer and I mixed it all together with some water. And to change it, I took 5 gallons comparatively in as a ratio. So I would remove half a gallon or a gallon to get my different ratios for a higher concentration, or I would add a gallon or half a gallon to get my lower concentrations. So dilution or concentrated the amount of grams per liter. So I took my fertilizer, put it inside the bucket. It is now green. And then I could just add or subtract water. So during the first week, so in late September, I took nutrient wool and I put coconut ground up coconuts called core, and I seeded it. I sowed it. And this is what happened after about a week. And then I started the growth period. So from early November all the way to the 26th of Tuesday, I grew these plants for 4 weeks. And on the left and the right, you can see how the plants were moved from week 2 to week 4 at the very end, how much they grew. So in the very end, I removed all the plants, and in the very end, I would cut off the area right here. So I would only get the dry mass, only get the green mass. And then I massed it so I could get the wet mass. I threw it in a dehydrator. Then I measured it again, masked it, got the dry mass. So for results, what I found. So on the x-axis, you can see the concentration level of nutrients. On the y-axis, you can see the dry mass measured in grams. So on the x-axis, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3, this is level 4, this is level 5 by dot. And it is basically saying this is grams per liter. So what I found was for every 891.83 grams so for every 1 liter, 891.83 grams would increase. And you can see that as nutrient level increased, concentration increased, the average mass increased. And I ran an ANCOVA, I found a p-value of 0.0266. I ran an ANCOVA because the DV is dependent and the independent variable had a combination of variables set upon it, such as location, which is categorical. I'm tired. And also concentration level of nutrients, which is continuous, so you run an ANCOVA. Also, it seems it is linear, even though level 5 seems to drop off again. The overall trend is linear. So this is the results graph for location. On the x-axis location, 1 being side, 2 being top. On the y-axis again is dry mass measured in grams. I found that as side moved to top, there's a 0.0681 gram increase, and ANCOVA was run, and a p-value of 0.6071 was found, which means that this did not have a significant effect on the dry mass. So this is my graph for the number of plants. On the x-axis, there is the number of plants per net pot, moving from 0 all the way up to 15. On the y-axis, there is dry mass, measured in grams. So I found that as for every 1 increase in plant per net pot, there was a negative 0.0467 gram decrease, and an ANCOVA was run, and a p-value of 0.0734 was found, which is not significant. So due to the alpha being 0.05, number one, there was a significant effect found on concentration level of nutrients on dry mass. So indeed, as nutrient concentration level increased, dry mass also increased significantly. So I reject the null hypothesis. So for number 2, I failed to reject the null hypothesis because the p-value was found to be not significant. and there is not a significant change between top and side dry mass. For number 3, the null hypothesis, we failed to reject it. There was a non-significant effect found on number of plants per net pot in competition with each other, and therefore there was a non-significant effect between number of plants per net pot on their dry mass. So, moving to the discussion. So, nutrients are indeed vital to metabolism and growth. We already know this, and this study affirmed that. So, the plants were not affected significantly from the water coverage, sunlight, or gravity due to the slight changes inside the bucket, the way the setup was. So, the competition was an unseen factor. Sorry, the competition was a factor intended. Shoot, whatever. I'll fix it later. So I believe that this was tested with purpose, and in the field you will never ever get exactly one seed per hole, because that is not how plants are grown realistically. Realistically, you will have different number of plants per net pot, per square meter, or per net pot, per area, per whatever you are growing them in, and you will have to account for competition. And I do believe it would have created a significant effect if I used it on a wider range. So the aeroponics, this study helped prove the validity of the aeroponic method. This is a view of a mass-produced aeroponic area. Those are just little brassicas being grown on the side. So in aeroponics, the water and nutrients are recycled, which is great. So you're wasting less water. You're not buying as many nutrients. Everything is tailored. You're growing your plants to the maximum effect. So now that you don't have fertilizer, you don't have to worry about runoff when the rain comes, and you don't have to worry about soil erosion. You don't have to worry about soil contamination. This is very good for the environment. This is what this suggests. Also, you will have less excessive eutrophication, so you will, by byproduct, you will have less algal blooms hurting the fish in the water. It is more efficient, so in the long run, you will have more plants for less money, even though the startup costs are high. Also, you're using less land, so you can have more diverse environments, you can have healthier environments for people to enjoy, and for the rest of the living organisms in this world to enjoy. And with less land use for agriculture, we use it for anything else, such as manufacturing, housing, parks, sanctuaries for animals. Do what you want. So also, even though the startup was expensive, I admit that I spent maybe $300 on this project for 5 buckets. In the long run, the environmental protection and production implication lessens the startup costs. This is long run efficiency. We could use this in the long run. For example, in the rainforest, this has excellent soil, but after 5 years it's used up. With this kind of setup, you can go for 10, 20 years without having to replace your equipment, as long as you maintained and cleaned it. So for agriculture and gardeners, the increased concentration of nutrients significantly increase produce gains, and this could assist agriculture and big business, and people who want to garden can also use a higher concentrated formula. So with higher biomass gains, more people can be fed at a possibly lower cost to farmers into the environment in the long run. We're thinking about the future here, not the startup costs. So this data suggests that brassicas can handle higher concentrations of nutrients, and developing a data bank for people to understand how much nutrients their plants can take will assist the entire population. So on the right, this is basically what my project was proving. So you have a yield of maximum percentage on the left. On the x-axis, you have nutrient concentration in plant. And you're looking at deficient zone, adequate zone, toxic zone, you have your marginal zones. But basically what we're looking at is what would happen if you didn't have enough nutrients, you'd be in the deficient zone. If you had too many nutrients, such as level 5, you would be in the toxic zone and they were actually dying. But level 4 and level 3s and level 2 were in the adequate to marginal zone, and that's why you had the largest gains. And this is what this proved. This proved that plants indeed need the specific amount of nutrients. And with farming practices, food production, and gardening can use all these nutrient concentration suggestions, and we together can create a better lifestyle. Thank you.